Pennsylvania. I've done a numerous amount of short films over the years, and I always find myself, you know, in the in-between stages of making short films, I'm like, man, I wish I was making something else, you know. And I've always toiled with the idea of starting like a YouTube review channel, so I'm actually putting myself to the test, and we're starting a YouTube review channel. I know that there's a million other review channels out there, and they do it a lot better than me, but this is just my thing that I want to do, you know, and we'll see how it goes. And I'm doing a 31 Days of Halloween review challenge, which is basically I'm going to pick a movie every day of October and watch it and review it and record a video and post it on YouTube. I'm really excited to start this series, and if it's successful and I feel like, you know, making some more reviews on movies, I'll keep doing that. But if not, then, you know, no big deal. At least I did a challenge and I did it, you know. You can find me on Instagram at supertramp_Kyle. Find me on Facebook at Kyle Martin if you want to friend me, that's cool. Short films and stuff are all on this channel. Yeah, you can follow me, talk to me, let's start a conversation. Recommend a movie that you want, that you like watching during October, and I might review it, you know, if I have it. Welcome to episode 1 of this new YouTube channel that I'm starting. It's called Late Night Lycanthrope Nightmares. And I thought, what should be the movie that we start out with? You know, it's gotta be something good, a classic, obviously. A perfect movie to start off with then. American Werewolf in London. 1981, directed by John Landis, written by John Landis as well. Starring David Naughton, Griffin Dunne, and Jenny Agutter. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. It's about two Americans hitchhiking throughout Europe. They wind up in England, and one night they're attacked by a werewolf. David Naughton's friend, played by Griffin Dunne, is murdered, and David Naughton is wounded during the werewolf attack. And he's brought back to London, where he meets Jenny Agutter, who plays a nurse, and they fall in love, and he finds out that he is a werewolf. Spoilers, obviously. I mean, this movie's been out for over 30 years now, almost 40 years now, and if you haven't seen it yet, then why are you watching this review? Go out and watch it. Come on. This is an unabashed classic in the genre, and what's great about it is it's a horror movie. First and foremost, it's a horror movie. But it also has these elements of comedy that are just, it's not like they're just put in there just for comedy's sake. It's so natural, and the chemistry between David Naughton and Griffin Dunne makes it seem like it's just your buddy. You know, you're just there backpacking with your buddy, and you're making jokes, and it just feels so natural between them. I mean, this whole movie is summed up by the first introduction to our characters. And how we're introduced to our characters is they're in the back of a truck filled with sheep. And it's just, you know from the start that these two guys are fucked. Like, they're so fucked. Like, this isn't like a happy movie either. You know, it's got comedy in it, but, I mean, it ends up with our two leads dying. You know, Griffin Dunne dies in the first 30 minutes of the movie, and then David Naughton is killed at the end. He's shot down. Spoilers again, sorry. And Jenny Agatter's character is just left, you know, or she just saw her love interest just be gunned down, you know, and she couldn't do anything to help him. You know, werewolf movies are like my favorite of the monster genre. You know, I mean, my YouTube channel is now called, you know, Late Night Lycanthrope Nightmares, and it's because I find the idea of the werewolf to be the most compassionate of all the monsters. It's not something that you are in control of. This happened to you. If you get bit by a werewolf, it is just out of pure circumstance. It's not like you went out of your way to get bitten by a werewolf. It just happened to you, and now you have no control over this beast that's just going to come out during every full moon. You can't stop it. You can't reason with it. It's gonna happen. And I like it, the idea of like the werewolf is just this. It's the inner madness and inner demons that live within us come out You know, it's like my favorite werewolf obviously, I mean, this movie has probably the greatest werewolf transformation of all time in any werewolf movie. It hasn't been topped, I think. But my favorite idea of a werewolf transformation was actually in Van Helsing, a Hugh Jackman movie from a couple years back. And in that movie, the werewolves, when Hugh Jackman gets turned into a werewolf, he like, the wolf like peels his skin off, and like the wolf emerges from inside. You know, it's the beast within kind of there, and I love that. I love that idea. It's CGI'd to death in Van Helsing, which ruins it obviously, but the idea of it is amazing. Let's talk about John Landis. I mean, John Landis is a master filmmaker. He just is, and you know, I don't think he gets his dues. He's a guy who took very quirky ideas and put them into these movies, and he made them his own. American Werewolf in London is a movie that could only be made by John Landis in that part of time. No other filmmaker could make this movie the way that it was made, except for John Landis. And because it's got that weird mixture of humor and horror that is just weaved throughout it, but it's done, and romance too, it's done so just precisely and naturally, and just the nuance of this movie just it is a masterstroke in genre. And if you want a lesson on how to, you know, how to blend all this stuff together, just watch this movie. It's a perfect example of it. It doesn't get any better than this. John Landis started out, he made a Schlock, which is a low-budget horror movie that he made like in his backyard, basically. And then from that, he got Kentucky Fried Movie, which is like it's like a sketch comedy kind of like movie from the Zucker Brothers. It's an early Zucker Brothers film. And then from that movie, he got Animal House from the National Lampoon Gang. And then when Animal House was such a hit, he got Blues Brothers because of his working relationship with John Belushi. And then Blues Brothers and Animal House made so much money that Universal was just like, we'll give you whatever you want to do, we'll make it. And he had written the script for American Werewolf in London when he was like 18, and it didn't really change much from when he first wrote it till he started making it. And so this was always on his like wish list to make, you know, and it shows. There's so much detail put into it, and there's so much care and love that you're just like, this is someone's baby, you know. It shows so well. It's his masterpiece, really. It really is. I mean, like no other film has really topped this in his filmography, and it doesn't really need to. He made an unabashed classic that will live on in cinema history. It's not just a good horror movie. It's not just a good comedy. It's just a great movie in general, and should be very widely. It is in the horror community. I think everyone will agree that American Werewolf in London is the best werewolf movie by far. But in the vast landscape of cinema, I think it tends to go a little underlooked, you know, unfortunately. Talk about the actors in this movie. Okay, so David Naughton, I think this was like his first movie. You know, he was in this Dr. Pepper commercial that kind of like blew up. You know, it was like him singing and stuff, and it was a huge like phenomenon, this commercial. John Landis saw that, and he kind of liked the way he looked and the way he felt very like natural in this commercial, so he cast him off of that. Griffin Dunne had been in a lot of indie movies and stuff, and came across John Landis' eye, and he got that. Jenny Agutter was friends with John Landis and his wife, and he cast her based on that, just because they were friends, they were neighbors when she was living in Los Angeles, and the chemistry between everyone is just so. No one stands out as like a big star. That's what's great about this movie, is that, I mean, like most of these people were unknown at the time. I think Griffin Dunne was probably the most well known out of all of them, you know, and it just feels like these just normal people put into this extreme situation, you know, and it's an absurd situation. You know, the idea of a wolf bites you and then you turn into a wolf. It's absurd, you know, but it works. That's what's great about it, because you believe these characters, you believe these actors, you believe Griffin Dunne and David Notter's friendship, and then you believe David Notter and Jenny Agatter's romance, even though it's a very quick romance. You know, he kind of meets her in the hospital, he gets discharged, and they they have this very sensual love scene, which is amazing. Like it is such a sensual scene too, and it still holds up, and it's very 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 good. But you just believe these characters, and I think that's where John Landis really shined, was in casting these people who really didn't have much to prove beforehand, but after this it's just like, wow, they're tremendous in their roles, and they're amazing actors. I first saw this movie back in the early 2000s. We had this old VCR. I had a whole bunch of VHSs, and I remember like Predator was one, the Terminator 2 was one, and I just watched these movies just, on a loop, because they were really the only VHSs that we had. I think it was like Walmart ones, and I was always going to the movie section, and I remember seeing the old cover art of American Werewolf in London, and it's just this blue cover with Big Ben in the background, and then the werewolf head coming out, and I was captured by it. And I watched a bunch of horror movies when I was younger, so I was very kind of like desensitized to it a little bit. And so I was just like, wow, what is this? Like, American Werewolf in London is such a strange long title. I'd never heard that before, but it flows so naturally. So I was like, I gotta have this. And my parents bought it for me, and I went home and I watched it, and I just kept watching it for years and years. I still have that VHS, actually. I've upgraded since then, but I still have it. It's still a very cherished item in my collection. It was just one of those movies that was just always on repeat for me, and I've seen it like 100 times, and I can still watch it and like quote it endlessly, because it's just such a classic piece of cinema. Let's talk about the edition that I have here. This is a Blu-ray version. This is a special steelbook cover that was put out a couple years ago. It's the Blu-ray is actually the Full Moon edition, which came out I think like a year prior to the steelbook. So it's still the same DVD that you would get with the Full Moon regular Blu-ray, but it's just a different steel case. And I really like this steel case a lot, and I wanted to pick it up, and I didn't have the Blu-ray yet, so I got this one. There's a ton of special features on here. There's a commentary with Griffin Dunn, David Nodder. I think the most important special feature on here, there is a documentary called Beware the Moon, and it's like a 2-hour documentary on the making of American Werewolf in London. And it's amazing, and it just spans from like the inception of it all the way to the release, and then like 20 years reflection on it too, and the fan base that has grown out of it, because when this movie was released in theaters, it wasn't a hit at all. It kind of came and went. It got actually mixed reviews too, which is very upsetting, because but that's all classic cinema. They hate it when it first comes out, and then 20 years later, everyone talks about how much of a classic it is. The transformation sequence has a very interesting history, because John Landis and Rick Baker, the special effects artist that worked on American Werewolf in London, they had a long friendship before this movie, and John Landis had shown Rick the script, and Rick and John always had this idea of showing the transformation, because in werewolf movies you never really saw the man turn into the beast. It was always kind of like, with the Wolfman. They don't cut away, but it just shows like, like slow, like, he gets a little bit of hair, then he gets a lot of hair, but there's no pain to it. They wanted to show the pain of the transformation, which was a fascinating idea, but it took them a long time to actually get there. John Landis finally got the money to make American Werewolf. Rick Baker had actually signed on to do a different werewolf movie, and that movie was Joe Dante's The Howling. And so, John Landis calls up Rick Baker, and he's like, hey, I got the money, we gotta go. And Rick's like, I'm actually working on this other werewolf movie. And John was just furious about it. And then Rick ended up leaving The Howling and went to go do American Werewolf in London. So it all worked out. And there's actually some, like, in some of the transformation sequences in The Howling, if you look at them, you look at American Werewolf, they're like Rick's same concept, so it's a very, very interesting history there. But Rob Bottin ended up taking over The Howling, and he went on to have a very, successful career in special makeups, and Rick got to do a very, renowned career in special makeup effects, so it all worked out. Not much to say more about this movie, and just go watch it. If you haven't seen this movie yet, I mean, go watch it. Like, it's a classic. I can't wait to do more videos like this. It's very interesting, and I'll get better as I go along. But yeah, I got a lot more stuff to review. This is all my, I mean, you see a little bit, but there's more here. But I got a lot more movies to review, and I'm into this challenge, so let's do it, you know. Like this video, subscribe if you want to. If you don't, cool. Not going to be offended by it. Stick around for more videos. Tune in tomorrow. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you come back for the next one. Take care.